In chapter 28, Snape's worst memory. Obviously, the first thing that they did, or Cornelius Fudge did, was name Umbridge the new headmistress of Hogwarts, and she goes in and make a bunch of changes right away. One being making an inquisitorial squad or group, and those are just people that are, I guess, higher up than Perfects. Malfoy happens to be one of those. It's mostly Slytherins that are part of this group. Um, and Fred and George did stuff one of them, Montague, into the vanishing closet. And they basically tell Harry, Hermione, and Ron basically that they don't really care what happens with them the rest of the year. Like they already took their owls and stuff, and they don't care if they get expelled, all of that. They're just focused on their craft, and even it catches Hermione's surprise, obviously, but yeah, they don't care. And so they have a thing that's about to go off in a second later in this chapter. Looks like Umbridge is having some problems as well. She has a hard time because she can't even get in Dumbledore's office because the password has been changed and she can't get in. So she throws a fit, and she does later call Harry into her office, which has a big sign that says headmistress on it, and at her desk. And she questions Harry, obviously, after, because he was one of the people in the room, and the incident happened, and Marietta is in the infirmary, so she can't really talk anymore. So she asked him, "Do you know where Dumbledore is?" And she gives him some tea beforehand and insists that he drinks it. He obviously does not, and he just fake drinks it. So she infers that she definitely put something in that tea, might be like truth serum or something, which is illegal to use. And she kept asking questions like, "Where's Dumbledore? Do you know where he is?" Harry says no, which I believe he really does not know where Dumbledore is. And then she asked, "Where's Sirius?" This catches Harry off guard for a little bit because she does know that Sirius has been trying to meet in the fireplace. So she has all the fireplaces being watched, all the owls being watched, every kind of message that could be sent out is being watched. She asks where's Sirius. He says he doesn't know. So she's like, "Okay, I'll take your word for it." And before she can ask more questions, there's a big boom and a bunch of fireworks are going off in the school. So a bunch of fireworks that are like dragons going off in the school. And Harry obviously knows this was Fred and George's plan. Um, he can't. He has to duck away to laugh. He finds Fred and George, and they tell him about the fireworks and everything. So they're Umbridge and Filch is running around trying to fix those, and pretty much the rest of the day is kind of just fireworks going off throughout the whole day. Literally, they went off the whole day. Even Harry went to sleep later. Gryffindor Hall was all ecstatic because the fireworks and everything. Harry went to sleep and was woken up from his dream that he was having. In his dream, he did end up going through that door again, and he got farther into the Department of Mysteries. He kept going farther and farther, and he had this feeling that he really wanted to get to something. And there was this familiar light that he saw in the room as well that he will later recognize later in the chapter. But there was a light that he was trying to see, and he was really trying to figure out what he wanted because he didn't know exactly what he was trying to get. But the fireworks woke him up from his dream, and in the middle of the night. And the next day, he had his usual meeting with Snape. And so he was dreading that. But before he could go to that, it was Cho that caught up to him in the hallway, and just to talk about, because it was her friend that sold him out, basically. And she was trying to talk Marietta up and say, like, it's not her fault. Harry's like, she made a big mistake, and that he was glad that Hermione's jinx was effective as it was. And at Hermione's name, this is when Cho flipped the switch, because she is obviously jealous of Hermione being as close to Harry as she is, even though Harry doesn't like Hermione like that. But Cho is jealous, obviously. And then that's when she gets mad and they go back and forth, and they both end up storming off from each other. So from a good conversation, he was looking forward to talking to Cho, and he was kind of an asshole. He's like, "Don't cry again," and then obviously she starts tearing up, but then she walks off, and then he goes off to Snape, all angry. His mind is supposed to be cleared, but he went off angry, and then they go to start. Before they can start, Malfoy runs in and said they found Montague, which is the guy that was stuffed in the closet earlier in the chapter by Fred and George. So they found him. He's all delirious and all that stuff. And so Snape has to run off and go help him. And so Harry is left, and Snape pretty much ends the lesson and said, "We'll meet again tomorrow." So Harry's about to leave, but then he looks back because Snape didn't have a chance to take his memories that he usually takes and puts in the pensive. He didn't have a chance to take them out. So Harry sees that, and Harry, being Harry, with his very curious nature, goes and looks over, ends up falling in, and ends up in a memory of Snape's. So this memory, he sees a young Snape, about the same age as him, and they're taking the owls. And so he sees Snape, his head, really like head deep in his parchment paper. And then he notices his dad is also in the room as well. Walks over to his dad and really notices how his dad looks so much like him. His dad's about the same age as well, even the same height, everything, except for the color of his eyes. That's pretty much the only thing that's different. And then he notices all of his dad's friends, so Sirius, Lupin, and Wormtail as well are in the room. They'll meet up after finishing their owls, talking about how well they did, and especially the werewolf part of the questions. And then they're outside on the lawn. Harry's dad has a snitch that he's playing with, and seems like he did make a drawing of a snitch and had the letters, initials L.E. Next to them. So he's trying to play with the snitch. He looks like he's trying to impress a girl. Obviously that girl will be Harry's mom, Lily. But they go outside and they start bullying Snape, calling him Snivelus and all that stuff. And Lupin obviously is not a part of this bullying, but he's not stopping it as well. So it's mostly just Sirius and James, Harry's dad. But James is the real instigator. So they go at Snape, blast him with some spells, and as they're going to, it comes in Lily. She comes to defend Snape, and she basically comes at Harry's dad, calling him a bully and all that stuff. He kind of takes offense to that, and then they let Snape down. But then Snape attacks Harry's dad, and then they go back and forth. Even Snape attacks Lily, not attacks her, but like he calls her a mudblood. And so that offended her, and then she got mad. She's like, "Okay, I'll leave you to it." So then they start hanging Snape up in the air, and James drops him. Sirius catches him, and then James and him kind of go back and forth a little bit more. But in this moment, Harry feels a hand grab him, so grabbed him out of the pensive. And Harry was just thinking about how much that Snape was right about his dad, and how much of a bully that his dad really is. And he didn't think his dad was like that. And Snape really just pressures him and says, "Don't tell anyone what you just saw in that memory." And Harry's like, "No, I won't." And Snape was like mad. Like, this is the most mad he's ever seen Snape. And he obviously, he usually goes and tells Ron and Hermione, but he really didn't want to because he felt bad. He actually felt bad for Snape because he's been in the same situation, because Malfoy bullies him too, and other kids bully him. So Harry is really on Snape's side here and not really on his dad's. That makes him feel some type of way.